Hey everyone, Jake Morrison here, a 34-year-old Army Corps of Engineers veteran and third-generation owner of 47 acres of prime Texas land just outside Austin. Welcome to my YouTube channel, where I share stories of fighting back against corruption and winning. Today, I'm diving into the epic saga of how I took down a corrupt HOA that built 35 McMansions on my grandfather's farm while I was deployed in Afghanistan. This is a 15-minute video packed with water rights, federal law, and a whole lot of gravity-fueled justice. It's a long tale, so grab a coffee, and let's get into it. Drop your own HOA horror stories in the comments. I read every single one, and I'll reply when I can. Let's roll. My story starts with my grandfather, Pops, a tough-as-nails Texan who believed in two things: taking care of the land and taking care of the people on it. In 1955, when Austin was a sleepy college town with more barbecue joints than tech startups, Pops bought 47 acres of rolling hills just outside the city. It was prime land, with fertile soil, a small creek called Willow Creek running through it, and enough space to run cattle and raise a family. Pops wasn't just a rancher, he was a steward of the land, teaching me to hunt, fish, and respect the balance of nature. In 1978, Pops built a small earth dam on our property, designed with help from the Army Corps of Engineers. It wasn't some flashy megastructure, just good, solid engineering meant to collect rainwater for our cattle and help downstream neighbors during Texas' brutal dry spells. The dam was a lifeline for the community, ensuring water for farms like the Santos families and Mrs. Chen's garden, which had been in her family since the 1940s. Pops always said, "Water's worth more than gold when the rains don't come." His dam was his legacy, a promise to the land and the people who depended on it. I grew up on that land, carving my initials into an old oak tree and learning to read the creek's flow like a book. But life took me away. I joined the Army Corps of Engineers, specializing in water management and infrastructure. 2 tours in Afghanistan taught me how precious clean water is, and how fiercely people will fight over it. While I was overseas, building wells and managing water systems in war zones, Pops passed away. The land went into a trust managed by my sister, Sarah, who lived in California and knew as much about Texas land law as I did about surfing. She hired Lone Star Land Services to handle taxes and upkeep, trusting them to keep things in order. That was our first mistake. I came home in August 2023, expecting to see the familiar pastures, the oak tree, and the dam sparkling under the Texas sun. Instead, I found a war zone of a different kind. Construction crews swarmed my back 40 acres, pouring concrete for 35 McMansions in a development called Willowbrook Estates. Survey stakes dotted the land like enemy markers, and the air was thick with the dust of betrayal. The crunch of gravel under my boots felt angrier than I remembered, and the metallic taste of fury hit my tongue as I marched up to the foreman. "Sorry, buddy," he said, not looking sorry at all. "This is Willowbrook Estates property now. We got permits and everything." "Permits? On my land?" I called the police, and Officer Martinez arrived, visibly uncomfortable. He explained that the HOA had filed an adverse possession claim while I was deployed. In Texas, if land sits unused and someone improves it for long enough, they can claim ownership. It's an old law meant to prevent abandoned land, but developers and HOAs have turned it into a weapon for land grabs. That's when Maggie Thornwell rolled up in her golf cart, looking like a suburban warlord in a tennis outfit. Maggie, 52, was the HOA president, with a white BMW X7 and a smile that could cut glass. Married to City Councilman Rick Thornwell, she had the kind of passive-aggressive sweetness Southern women perfect by 45. "Your family abandoned this land, honey," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "We're just putting it to good use for the community." Her perfume couldn't mask the stench of entitlement. What really set my blood boiling was the creek. Maggie's crews had diverted Willow Creek, the lifeblood of Pop's Dam, to feed decorative ponds for their McMansions. The dam's water level was dropping daily, undoing 45 years of careful management that had helped neighbors through droughts and floods. Maggie's parting shot as she sped off in her golf cart. You should have stayed closer to home, soldier boy. This wasn't just a land grab, it was war. Maggie thought she'd outsmarted a soldier, but she didn't know I was an Army Corps engineer trained to find solutions under pressure. While she was busy playing suburban queen, I was digging through county records like I was hunting for IEDs in Afghanistan. The courthouse smelled of old paper and stale coffee, but every dusty file was a weapon. I found 2 game changers, Pop's 1978 dam construction permits, which placed it under federal jurisdiction, and a 1923 water rights deed giving my family senior rights to Willow Creek, older than the city, the county, or Maggie's HOA. Knowledge nugget number 1, federal jurisdiction over dams trumps local HOA claims, and senior water rights in Texas are as ironclad as they come. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Maggie's crews were stealing 1,200 gallons of water daily, worth $47,000 annually in agricultural rights. Their diversion was killing downstream farms, including Miguel Santos' century-old family operation and Mrs. Chen's ancestral garden. It was also a textbook Clean Water Act violation, with fines starting at $50,000 per day. Even better, their 35 homes sat in a 100-year floodplain, and they'd lied to insurance companies to secure $47 million in coverage. Knowledge nugget number 2, falsifying flood risks for insurance is federal mail fraud, carrying criminal penalties. Maggie wasn't new to this game. In Houston, her previous HOA had paid a $2.3 million EPA fine for an identical creek diversion scheme. She'd fled to Austin, setting up shop with Rick's political muscle to pull the same scam. Rick had fast-tracked an emergency zoning change while I was overseas, flipping my land from agricultural to residential faster than you can say conflict of interest. The smell of corruption was thicker than the cedar pollen in the August air. I wasn't fighting alone. I called my Army buddy Tony Riggs, now with the EPA's Enforcement Division. Over a 20-minute call, he taught me more about environmental law than my first lawyer, who quoted $85,000 just to challenge the zoning change. Tony confirmed that diverting a natural waterway without federal permits was a Clean Water Act violation, and my dam's federal jurisdiction gave me untouchable authority. I also partnered with Amanda Cross, an environmental lawyer who took my case pro bono, and neighbors like Miguel Santos, whose farm had withered without creek water, and Mrs. Chen, whose garden was a brown shadow of its former glory. We built a war chest of evidence. Trail cameras captured construction crews diverting the creek. Flow meters documented 1,200 gallons of daily water theft. My drone mapped the development's exact location in the floodplain, with 5 homes built directly in the historical flood channel. Amanda uncovered Maggie's Houston fraud, while Miguel and Mrs. Chen provided historical photos showing the creek's natural flow feeding their lands for decades. The Audubon Society noted the diversion had killed nesting habitats for protected birds, and Texas Parks and Wildlife reported a fish kill of protected Guadalupe bass. This wasn't just theft, it was environmental destruction. Maggie fought back with a bureaucratic assault. Her neighborhood safety patrols photographed my visitors and filed fake complaints about loud music, unsightly structures, and my septic system, which had passed inspection 6 months earlier. Rick used his counsel position for a wellness check, claiming I was a troubled veteran. A VA social worker showed up, apologetic but thorough, while Maggie watched from her golf cart like a general inspecting troops. They even sent building inspectors, fire marshals, and animal control on the same day, citing minor violations that cost thousands to fix. It was a squeeze play straight out of a war zone playbook, overwhelm your target until they break. While Maggie played dirty, I found a trump card in Pop's attic. His handwritten journals and a 1978 flood management covenant requiring the dam to maintain natural seasonal flow for downstream agriculture. This wasn't just permission to manage flooding, it was a legal obligation that superseded HOA agreements. With heavy September rains forecast, I devised a plan, a controlled spillway release to restore Willow Creek's natural path, proving the HOA's development violated federal law without damaging homes. My team was ready. Amanda filed emergency motions citing the Covenant and Clean Water Act violations. Tony arranged for EPA agents to witness the natural flooding demonstration. Miguel rallied downstream farmers to document restored water access, and Mrs. Chen monitored HOA chatter through the neighborhood gossip network. Never underestimate a grandma with time on her hands. I upgraded the dam's hydraulic gates, untouched since 1982, and calculated a release of 2.8 million gallons, enough to restore the creek but stay within its natural banks. Safety was paramount. I posted warnings, notified the fire department, and created an evacuation plan we wouldn't need. Maggie escalated. Her security team tried sabotaging the spillway with concrete mix at 2 a.m., but my trail cameras caught them, and Deputy Rodriguez made arrests. Maggie went on the morning news, dabbing fake tears and calling my dam a ticking time bomb. She posted on Nextdoor about unstable individuals, threatening kids, never naming me but ensuring everyone knew. Rick fast-tracked an eminent domain hearing, offering $180,000 for land assessed at $890,000. The local paper ran a hit piece, Troubled Veteran Blocks Community Progress, with a photo making my farmhouse look like a shack. At 7:02 a.m., with storm clouds painting the sky orange and EPA agents watching, I opened the spillway gates to 25% capacity. The sound was magic, not a destructive roar, but a gentle whisper of water returning home. Willow Creek flowed into its original bed, exposing Maggie's illegal concrete barriers. No homes flooded, the water stayed within its natural banks, just as Pop's engineering intended. Miguel knelt by the creek, tears streaming as he cupped water that had fed his grandfather's farm for 60 years. "This is home," he whispered. Maggie live-streamed on Facebook, screaming about terrorism and children's homes. But news helicopters showed the truth, a restored creek bringing life to farms. EPA agent Sarah Kim measured the flow, confirming it matched historical patterns. Amanda recorded Rick yelling about property values on a phone call, forgetting Texas is a one-party consent state for recordings. Knowledge nugget number 3. Historical water rights with federal backing always beat recent development claims. The courtroom was a showdown. Amanda presented the 1923 deed, 1978 covenant, and Maggie's Houston fraud history. Tony testified about 3 federal law violations, including wildlife destruction. Miguel and Mrs. Chen shared emotional stories of lost farms and gardens. Rick admitted under oath to zoning corruption, his voice cracking as Amanda played his recorded rant. Judge Walsh, Rick's golf buddy, squirmed but ruled in our favor, denying the HOA's restraining order and ordering no interference with federal investigations. Rick pleaded guilty to federal conspiracy, earning 3 years in prison. Maggie faced $8.7 million in civil penalties and filed for bankruptcy. The HOA's insurance was voided for fraud, halting construction. The HOA dissolved, and residents formed a new association focused on environmental stewardship. I settled for $340,000, using it to buy back Miguel's farm at auction and return it debt-free. Willow Creek became a protected wildlife corridor, with Guadalupe Base and 12 bird species returning within months. My dam's operation is now an Army Corps case study. The land's value soared to $1.2 million as ecotourism, kayaking, birdwatching, fishing, replaced McMansions. Mrs. Chen's garden became a sustainable agriculture demo site, and 3 downstream farms reported record crop yields. The local diner became the Willow Creek Restoration Association's hub, where farmers and environmentalists plan the next fight against water theft. This wasn't about revenge, it was about Pop's legacy of community. The Willow Creek Conservation Trust now protects the watershed forever. Our fight sparked a movement. 147 families across 3 states filed water rights lawsuits, citing our case. I renovated Pop's farmhouse sustainably, and Sarah moved back to help run our ecotourism business. Amanda and I. Let's just say fighting for justice creates a strong bond. Every Sunday, I pour creek water at Pop's grave, thanking him for teaching me to stand up for what's right. His journals, full of stories about helping neighbors, guide me still. We started the Pops Morrison Environmental Scholarship, and Miguel's daughter Maria, the first recipient, is studying environmental engineering to protect Texas watersheds. If you're fighting an HOA or land grab, here's my advice: document everything: photos, videos, records. Find allies like farmers, environmentalists, or honest officials. Know your rights, especially water and federal laws. Knowledge nugget number 4: coordinated regulatory pressure from multiple agencies forces settlements faster than lawsuits alone. Share your HOA nightmare in the comments, and subscribe for more stories of fighting corruption, like next week's tale of my neighbor cutting power to City Hall during the mayor's wedding. Water finds a way, justice finds a way, and communities that fight together win. Willow Creek flows free, y'all, and it always will. See you next time.